What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day of Philly sports history for April 22nd, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Happy Earth Day to all of you out there who celebrate. Hopefully, you go pick up some trash and give a hoot and don't pollute like Woodsy the Owl. All right, bad news for the Sixers. Joe is out tonight with the sprained knee. They're hopeful that he could be back early next week, and it's just really frustrating that here we go, opening round. Not necessarily anything you can control, but like just a bad luck injury. I don't think it matters. I still think they close out the Nets today. And purely speculation, I feel as though because they're saying they're hopeful that he'll be ready for next week, I think that is just code for if this was a bigger game and they needed him, he would be able to play. But since you have a 3-0 lead and you're looking to close out and the Nets aren't necessarily a great team, I think they'll be all right. Needless to say, they're looking for their first 4-game sweep since 1985 against the Bucks in the conference semifinals. Hopefully, we can get it done and let Joe rest because you bought a couple days now that or Atlanta bought you a couple days now that they beat the Celtics last night. So that series is 2-1. So it's at least stretching out into next week. Hopefully, they take care of business today and let everybody rest and get healthy. But like I said, purely speculation. But I think if it was a meaningful game, he would be able to do it. All right, good comeback for the Phillies last night, 4-3. And Mundo Sosa was the hero, knocking in the game-winning runs. Schwarber hit a bomb. Nola, after a rough start, went 7 innings and only gave up those 3 earned runs. So good to see him go deep into a game, give the bullpen a little bit of rest, hopefully give himself some confidence. They got to come. They moved the game time up today because of the rain, so hopefully they can get. This is a 4-game series, so hopefully they can win today and at least guarantee a split. Union are in Chicago tonight. Quick Eagles update. I saw an interview with Howie Roseman, and I've never been more confident with Howie Roseman going into a draft. I saw a quote where basically he's like, nobody knows what we're going to do. And he kind of had that Howie smirk. I feel he totally has a plan. I think he has his guys targeted. I think if they're there, he's going to snag one of them. If not, he's punting and building up more draft capital. But just, I just feel like the way the quote was and just the look on his face, he knows what he's going to do, and he's out there playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. So hopefully that translates onto draft day now. But quick programming note, early next week, we are going to be recording our Back to the Future draft special, so I'll keep you posted when that drops. But if you want, like and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. That way you'll get a notification as soon as it drops. All right, today we're going to go back to 1957. And on this date, April 22nd, 1957, the Brooklyn Dodgers beat the Phillies 5-1 at Roosevelt Stadium in Jersey City. The last couple of years that the Dodgers were in Brooklyn, they played a few games over in Jersey City before they moved to LA. This happened to be their last season in Brooklyn. But the big story was John Kennedy pitch ran for Sally Hemus in the 8th inning, and he became the first black player to ever play for the Phillies. We've documented this back in February with our Black History Month spotlight, but it's a shame that this happened 10 years after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. It was also the year after he retired. Now, the Phillies were the last team in the National League to have, to integrate and have a black player. The last 2 teams after them, the Detroit Tigers had their first black player the next year, and then the Red Sox 2 years later in 1959 finally were the last team to integrate black players on their team. Unfortunately for John Kennedy, and again, we talked about this, he got a raw deal. He was supposed to be the starting shortstop, and then due to just the blatant racism that happened, they ended up trading the day before the season started, or something very close to the start of the season, and then he ended up riding the bench. He did play in 5 games, 0 for 2 in his only 2 plate appearances, but John Kennedy became the first black player for the Phillies on this day in 1957, paving the way, finally, And if you ever watched the movie 42 or followed us during the whole Black History Month, you know that Philly and the racism was pretty bad. So 10 years after Jackie Robinson, the Phillies finally had their first black player, John Kennedy, when he pinch ran in the 8th inning of a 5-1 loss against the Dodgers. All right. Eagles draft pick spotlight. As I mentioned, the draft is by this time next week. We're either going to be hailing Howie or hating Howie. So we'll see how it goes. But today's spotlight: Roynell Young, the New Orleans native, was picked number 23 overall out of Alcorn State in 1980 by the Eagles. He was a defensive back, played a little safety, played a little cornerback. He played for the Eagles from 1980 to 1988. Only team he played for, played in Super Bowl 15 as a rookie. He was a Pro Bowler in 1981. And I thought this was an interesting stat. He is one of 2 players to play in both Super Bowl 15 and the Fog Bowl, the other being offensive lineman Ron Baker. So I thought that was pretty cool. And Roynell was definitely one of those guys on those Eagles teams as I was growing up in the Buddy Ryan days. He was sort of the elder statesman, and I'm sure taught those guys a lot. He is in the Alcorn State Hall of Fame. And I thought this was interesting. After he retired, he founded Provision Youth and Community Development Organization, or Provision, which is a youth and community development organization. And from there, kind of morphed it into like a mentoring program. And now it's a charter school system for students in grades 3 through 12. I very much so respect that as someone who works in the charter school system. I spent my first 9 years in education working for a very similar kind of program who Herb Lusk started the People for People organization. Ironically enough, I don't think they overlap playing time, but I'm sure Pastor Lusk knew Roynell Young just because he was always around the team and everything. And I don't know if they bounced some ideas from each other, but it was very cool to see that it was a very similar progress and just process of getting the charter school set up, the mentoring program, and things like that. So shout out to you, Roynell Young, for that. Like I highly, highly respect that. But I think it's just very cool to have played in, like, to me, it just seems like the Super Bowl 15 and the Fog Bowl are like light years apart. But in reality, it was only 8 years. So the fact that his career started with one and ended with the other, I don't know, just me being silly, I guess. But Roynell Young, number 23 overall draft pick for the Eagles in 1980 out of Alcorn State, giving back to the community today. With Provision, I did a little research on them, kind of just intriguing since I have experience in the same thing. It's a very cool organization. Go check them out. But good win for the Phils. Hopefully they're looking to get a series split at worst with winning today. I'd love to see them do that and then take the series tomorrow. Sixers without Joe, I think they're going to do it. I mean, you're only helping yourself by doing it. Go in. Business-like mentality, take care of business, get out, and then rest and wait for the Celtics. And hopefully the Hawks can steal another game or two from them. But on this day in 1957, John Kennedy became the first black player for the Phillies. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Saturday. Get out and enjoy it before the rain comes. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.